I never thought I'd hear my own son say those words to me. It was a rainy Wednesday morning, mid-December. I had just come home from picking up a turkey from the butcher's, the big kind, enough to feed 10, maybe more. I even grabbed the cinnamon sticks and fresh cranberries my daughter-in-law loved. Every year, I made her spiced cranberry sauce from scratch. She always said it tasted better than the store-bought kind her mother used to make. But this year, I never got the chance. Because that same afternoon, I got a text. Not a phone call. Not even a voicemail. Just a dry, 2-sentence text from my son, Tyler. Mom, we've decided to keep Christmas small this year. Just us and the kids. Hope you understand. I stared at the screen, my hands trembling slightly. At first, I thought I read it wrong. Maybe it was part of a longer message. Maybe there was more coming. I waited. I stared at the screen until it dimmed and went black. Nothing. I texted back. Does that mean I'm not invited? No reply. 2 hours later, still nothing. I called. It rang twice, then voicemail. I didn't leave one. What could I possibly say? The last time I saw Tyler and Natalie was Thanksgiving. We all sat around the table. I made sweet potato casserole the way Tyler liked, extra marshmallows, browned on top. Natalie smiled. She even hugged me at the end of the night. And now? Nothing. The next day, I tried again. Tyler, can we talk? This feels sudden. Still nothing. That night, I sat at my kitchen table, the same table I had for 25 years. I stared at the ceramic angel centerpiece I always brought out after Thanksgiving. The house was quiet. Too quiet. And suddenly, I felt it, shame. Not sadness, not anger. Shame. Like I had done something wrong. Like I was a burden. Like I was no longer part of their idea of family. But here's the thing, I raised that boy. I fed him, bathed him, stayed up all night when he had the flu, worked 2 jobs when his father left. I clipped coupons for his soccer shoes. I sold my wedding ring to help him pay for his college deposit. And now? Now I was too much. I was officially, quietly, uninvited. And I wasn't the only one. The neighbor down the street, the woman who lost her husband in July? Alone. My friend Ellen from church? Her daughter moved to Oregon and hadn't called in weeks. Mrs. Klein from across the alley? Her son sent her a gift card and said he was too busy this year. So I made a decision. One I never thought I'd make. If my family didn't want me at their table, I'd build my own. Not out of bitterness. But out of dignity. Out of grief, yes, but also out of quiet rebellion. Because I still had love to give. I still had a kitchen full of food. And I still believed that no one deserved to eat alone on Christmas, not even me. That night, I put out a post on a local community board. Hosting Christmas dinner. No one should be alone. If you need a place to go, my door is open. Just bring your appetite. Within 24 hours, I had 13 replies. By the weekend, that number doubled. And in that moment, just as my heart was beginning to splinter, I felt something else rise up in me. Something fierce. Something freeing. I wasn't going to beg for a seat at a table I had built with my own 2 hands. No. I was going to make a new one. I looked at the text one last time, then deleted it. If I wasn't welcome in my own family's home, then maybe, just maybe, I'd create a new kind of family, one that remembered what love actually looks like. The first message I got was from a man named Bill. He simply wrote, "I'm a widower. Haven't celebrated Christmas since 2019. I'll bring apple pie." That was it. No fuss. Just honesty. The next one came from Jasmine, a single mom of 2 teenage boys. Her message broke my heart. Our plans fell through. I'd love to bring the boys somewhere warm and kind, if that's okay. I can make green bean casserole. And then came Ellie. She was 87. She lived 2 blocks from me. She hadn't had company on Christmas since her husband passed away, 7 years ago. I didn't know these people. They were strangers. But that was the whole point, wasn't it? The people who should have been closest to me had turned their backs. So I'd open the door to those who still remembered how to be kind. I spent the next few days preparing. I pulled out the good dishes, the ones I only ever used when Tyler brought the kids over. The ones with the little holly leaves painted around the edges. I found the red tablecloth buried deep in the linen cabinet. I hadn't used it in years. I dusted off the leaf extension to the dining table and added 2 folding tables at the end. It wasn't perfect, but it was big. Big enough. I lit candles. I laid out cloth napkins. I tucked sprigs of rosemary into each one, just like I used to do when I was younger and still believed in magic. And then I cooked. Turkey, ham, mashed potatoes, stuffing, roasted carrots, glazed Brussels sprouts, corn pudding, 2 types of pies. I made everything I would have made for my family, plus a few extras. I played old Nat King Cole records while I basted the turkey. For a moment, I forgot what had brought me here. I wasn't doing this for revenge. I wasn't doing it to prove a point. I was doing it to survive. Because I knew what loneliness tasted like. I had swallowed it in silence for years. At birthdays I was forgotten, at Mother's Days I was only texted, at holidays where I smiled through gritted teeth as my daughter-in-law called all the shots and Tyler said nothing. But not this year. This year, I would eat with people who saw me. Who looked me in the eye. Who said, thank you, and meant it. On Christmas morning, I woke up to a soft snowfall. It was quiet, still. The kind of morning poets write about. By 11 a.m., the smell of cinnamon, clove, and butter drifted through the whole house. At 1 p.m., the doorbell rang. The first face I saw was Bill's. He wore a green sweater and held out a homemade pie. Thank you, he said, for reminding me that life doesn't stop just because someone is gone. Then Jasmine arrived, her 2 boys carrying foil pans of food and shy smiles. Then Ellie, with her walker and a bottle of sparkling cider in a gift bag. Then came Frank, a retired vet. Then Michelle, whose kids were spending Christmas with their father and his new wife. Then Tomas, whose job as a trucker meant he rarely spent the holidays at home. And suddenly, my house was full. Laughter in the hallway. Voices in the kitchen. Hands helping. Feet shuffling. Plates clinking. Silverware passed back and forth. At one point, I looked around and realized. This wasn't a group of lonely people. This was a family. At least for a day. At dinner, I raised a glass and said the blessing. My voice cracked. To those who showed up, I said. To those who still know how to love. And to those who remind us, we're never too old to begin again. There were tears. Nods. Smiles that came from a deeper place. Later that evening, as snow continued to fall, Ellie pulled me aside. She held my hand and whispered, "You saved me this year." I didn't think I'd see another Christmas with warmth. And that's when it hit me. I hadn't just saved myself. I had saved others, too. My pain had become a doorway. And the ones who walked through it? They were no longer strangers. As we cleared the plates and refilled mugs with cider and cocoa, I caught myself laughing, truly laughing, for the first time in months. Maybe even years. And just like that, the ache in my chest softened. I wasn't alone anymore. Not tonight. Tyler wasn't a planned baby. I was 23. His father and I had been married less than a year. We were both working hourly jobs, me at a diner, him at a hardware store. When I found out I was pregnant, he panicked. I remember sitting on the edge of the bathtub, test in hand, while he paced back and forth like I'd dropped a bomb. He left 3 months later. No goodbye. Just a folded note on the kitchen table that said, "I'm not ready for this." But I was. I worked doubles while pregnant. My ankles swelled. My back ached. But I never missed a shift. When Tyler came into the world screaming, I cried right along with him, but not from pain. From promise. He became my purpose. I still remember the nights I'd rock him to sleep, humming lullabies even when I could barely keep my eyes open. I remember using duct tape to hold my old boots together through winter so I could buy him a proper coat. When he was 5, he got pneumonia. We didn't have insurance, but I begged the pharmacist to give me antibiotics on credit. I promised I'd pay in installments. It took me 4 months to clear that bill. I cooked from scratch. I learned how to sew, cut my own hair, and figured out how to fix a leaking toilet from YouTube before YouTube was even a thing. I was everything. Mother. Father. Nurse. Teacher. Taxi. Counselor. And never once did I complain. Because I loved him. I loved him in a way that had nothing to do with what I got in return. When he graduated college, the first in our family, I sat in the front row, hands clenched, throat tight. He wore that blue sash and walked across that stage, and I swear my heart cracked open with pride. I had sold my wedding ring to pay for his freshman housing deposit. I told him it didn't matter, I hadn't worn it in years. But it did matter. Not because of him. But because it was the last piece of something I used to believe in. Still, I gave it up. And when he married Natalie, I bent over backward to welcome her. Even when she made subtle comments about how she wanted her children raised differently. Even when she rolled her eyes when I brought old toys for the kids. Even when she corrected me, gently, always gently, on how I folded their laundry. I bit my tongue. I smiled. I tried. Because I thought if I loved her, Tyler would feel that. That he'd see I was trying. And I did love her. I truly did. When they bought their first house, I gave them $20,000 from my retirement savings. I told them it was a gift, but I had quietly skipped dental work and new glasses for 3 years to make that money stretch. I babysat their kids every week, no pay. Sometimes overnight. Sometimes back-to-back weekends when they had getaways. I bought Natalie spa gift certificates for Mother's Day. I cleaned out their garage while they were on vacation. I organized their pantry. I even helped her mother decorate for her birthday party. And still, I was uninvited. I wasn't just left out of a dinner. I was erased from a life I had poured my soul into. And the worst part? He didn't even think it was cruel. He thought it was normal. He thought I'd be okay with it. But I wasn't. I am not. Because there comes a moment in every mother's life when she realizes love, without boundaries, becomes expectation. And expectation, left unchecked, becomes entitlement. They weren't grateful. They were comfortable. Too comfortable cutting me out, as if all I had done didn't matter anymore. That night, as I folded napkins for strangers, my mind echoed with every moment I had said yes to Tyler. Every sacrifice, every silent gift. And in that moment, I whispered, never again. I told myself it was just a misunderstanding. That maybe Tyler had been overwhelmed. That maybe Natalie was planning a surprise and didn't want me to know yet. I gave them benefit after benefit of the doubt, because that's what mothers do when they still believe in their children's hearts. But then came the photos. Christmas Eve. I wasn't looking for them. Honestly, I was trying to distract myself. I logged onto Facebook out of habit, not expectation. Just scrolling. Just wasting time while a pot of mulled cider simmered on the stove. And then I saw it. Natalie's profile. A big, glossy photo of their living room, decorated like a Hallmark movie. The fireplace glowing. A 9-foot tree glittering in gold and white. Stockings perfectly spaced. And there, at the center of it all, Tyler, Natalie, the kids, and her parents. The caption? Christmas with our whole family. Feeling grateful and complete. Whole family. Complete. My stomach dropped. I scrolled again, hoping I misunderstood. But no. There was her father, carving the turkey. Her mother reading, The Night Before Christmas, to the kids. Matching pajamas. Hot cocoa bar. A tray of my peanut butter blossom cookies, my exact recipe, right down to the red sugar sprinkle. They hadn't just excluded me. They replaced me. And they called it whole. Complete. I stared at that word until the letters blurred. Complete. What a cruel thing to say to someone you left out in the cold. I shut the laptop. My hands were shaking again, the same way they did when I got that text. I stood there in the kitchen for a long time. The house felt cold, even with the oven running. I tried to hold it in, but the tears came. Not soft ones. Not graceful. Ugly, snotty, raw sobs. Not because I wasn't invited. But because I was deliberately excluded. Because they had the energy to plan, to decorate, to smile for pictures, and never once thought to call me. Not for the kids. Not for tradition. Not for decency. And when I didn't respond to the photos, Natalie sent me a message. Hope you had a peaceful holiday, Karen. Just wanted to check in, Red Heart. Check in. That's what people do after car accidents. After surgeries. Not after they exclude you from your own grandchildren's Christmas. I didn't respond. I couldn't trust myself to type anything that wouldn't end in years of damage. Instead, I stood up and did the dishes, alone. Every pot. Every spoon. Every glass. And then I swept the floor, changed the tablecloth, blew out the candles. I tried to act like it was any other night. But something had changed. Something had snapped. I wasn't sad anymore. I was done. Done pretending this was normal. Done shrinking myself for their comfort. Done calling it love when it was really control. The next day, I began to pack a box. Not gifts. But every baby photo I had ever saved. The lock of hair from Tyler's first haircut. The construction paper cards he made me in second grade. The little plaster handprint from preschool I kept on my dresser for 30 years. I wrapped them carefully. Labeled the box with sharp black marker. Forgetting doesn't erase what was given. Then I sealed it shut. Not to mail. Not to burn. But to keep. To remind myself, I was there. I mattered. Even if they tried to rewrite it. As the lights twinkled in someone else's living room, I sat in my darkened kitchen and finally saw the truth. I hadn't lost my place at the table, they had abandoned theirs. Revenge isn't always loud. Sometimes, it looks like a withdrawal of grace. Sometimes, it's not a slap, it's a slow, deliberate closing of the hand that once gave everything. The morning after Christmas, I made coffee just for me. No extra cups. No prepping for guests or grandkids. Just silence and steam. Then I opened my checkbook. I had been paying for the twins' private school tuition since first grade. Quietly, anonymously. Natalie always thought it was a scholarship the school had offered them. I let her believe that. Tyler knew, but we never discussed it after the first year. It was just one of those things I did because I loved them. But love has limits. I called the school and told them to remove my auto payment. No explanation. Just the truth, there will be no further contributions under my name. The woman on the phone hesitated. Are you sure, ma'am? This account has covered 80% of their tuition for. I'm sure. Click. Then I moved on to the other things. I had a standing account with the children's dentist. They never saw the bill. I handled it every 6 months like clockwork. I canceled it. The savings bond one had set up for their future college funds? Frozen. The Netflix account I paid for because Natalie once complained she didn't want another bill on her plate? Cancelled. The Christmas savings envelope I added to all year? Donated. I didn't do it out of spite. I did it out of clarity. I had mistaken being needed for being loved. And now that I saw the truth, I couldn't unsee it. For years, I had been their silent safety net. Their backup babysitter. Their weekend meal prepper. Their free errand runner. Their last-minute problem solver. But I wasn't family. Not to them. I was staff. Unpaid staff. And it was time to resign. A week later, Tyler finally called. Hey, Mom. Just wanted to check in. We haven't heard from you. My voice was steady. I saw the Christmas photos. A pause. Oh, yeah. Sorry about that. Natalie's parents were already flying in, and we figured it might be too much. You figured wrong, I said. He cleared his throat. Well, I didn't want you to feel bad. I do feel bad, Tyler. But not for the reason you think. He hesitated again. Look, we can talk about it later. Hey, can you still watch the kids this Saturday? We have brunch plans with Natalie's boss Anne. I won't be available. Silence. You always help on Saturdays. Not anymore. Is everything okay? Everything's finally clear. He didn't say anything after that. Just exhaled. Okay, well. I guess we'll figure something out. Yes. I guess you will. I hung up. My hand didn't shake this time. I had found something I hadn't felt in a long time, control. And not the bitter kind. The peaceful kind. The kind that comes from finally valuing yourself after years of bending over backwards. I didn't need to scream or threaten or make dramatic announcements. I just stopped. Stopped giving. Stopped reaching. Stopped making it easy to forget what I had done. As I crossed my name off their emergency contact list, I smiled for the first time in weeks. Not because I wanted revenge. But because I had finally remembered what my love was worth, and it was no longer free. New Year's Eve came quietly. No noisemakers. No glitter. Just a warm roast in the oven, laughter echoing from the living room, and 13 strangers who had become something more. That night, I hosted one last dinner, for the same people who had come on Christmas. They brought desserts this time. Jasmine's boys helped me hang twinkle lights around the window. Frank made meatballs. Ellie wore pearls. I set the table again. Same rosemary napkins. Same candles. But this time, there was something different in the air. Something deeper than gratitude. Something that felt like solidarity. They didn't know it yet, but this was the night I needed most. At some point during dessert, someone asked me what I normally did for New Year's. And without thinking, I answered, I used to watch my son's kids while he and his wife went to Napa. The table fell quiet for a moment. Then Ellie asked softly, used to? And I told them. Everything. Not with bitterness. Not with drama. Just the facts. I told them how Tyler had slowly distanced himself, how Natalie had taken over every decision, how I had been erased, one small action at a time. I told them about the Christmas photos. I told them about the tuition, the savings bonds, the babysitting, the silent giving that never once got acknowledged. And then I said the words I had never dared say aloud before. I don't think they love me anymore. I think they love what I do. Silence again. But this time, not the cold kind. The reverent kind. The kind that says, "We hear you. We've felt that too." Bill leaned in, his voice low and steady. You don't stop being a mother. But you can stop being a doormat. Michelle nodded. You deserved better. Jasmine's eyes welled up. You gave more love than most people have to give. That says everything about you, not them. I didn't cry. I just breathed. For the first time in months, maybe years, I didn't feel crazy. I didn't feel like the bitter mother-in-law, or the overbearing grandma, or the outdated leftover no one wants around. I felt understood. Seen. They say sometimes strangers treat you better than your own blood. I never wanted to believe that. But tonight, I did. Toward the end of the night, as we passed around hot cider and the last pieces of chocolate cake, I stood up. I walked to the side table and took out the photo box I had packed after Christmas. Can I show you something? I asked. They all nodded. I placed the items gently on the table, the lock of hair, the construction paper cards, the preschool handprint, the graduation photo. And then I laid down the final item, the receipt from the house down payment, $20,000. I looked at them, not with anger, but with a strange peace. This is what love looked like from me, I said. This is how I gave it. Silently. Consistently. Without asking for anything back. But this year, I added, voice steady, I started giving it to people who see it. The room was silent again. But not empty. It was full. Of presence. Of validation. Of something sacred. We raised our glasses at midnight. No countdown. No ball drop. Just one voice, mine, saying, to the family we make when the ones we built forget who we are. As I looked around at faces once foreign but now familiar, I realized I hadn't lost everything. I had reclaimed myself. And that? That was worth more than any Christmas invitation. It started with a phone call from the school. Not to me, of course not. But to Tyler. I wasn't there, but I could picture it, him rushing to his car, one AirPod in, Natalie flustered beside him as she asked what happened. The school had emailed them about an overdue balance. The email said the scholarship had expired. Confused, Tyler probably called the office, thinking there'd been a mistake. But there was no mistake. Because I had canceled it. 2 weeks before. That call was followed by another, from the dentist. Then the streaming services stopped working. Then Natalie called me. It was short. Hi, Karen. Hey, we just got a notice from the twin school and, something about tuition? Were you the scholarship? I said nothing for a beat. Just enough to make her uncomfortable. Then I replied, yes. She hesitated. Oh. Okay. We didn't know. I'm sure you didn't. Awkward silence. So, is that, like, over now? Yes. Another pause. Can I ask, why? My voice stayed calm. Because this year, I learned that giving without gratitude is just enabling. And I'm not doing that anymore. Silence. Then she said something that stuck with me. Well. I just wish you'd communicated that before pulling out. I almost laughed. Communicate? Like the text I got telling me I wasn't invited to Christmas? Instead, I just said, now you know how it feels. I hung up. No yelling. No anger. Just a click. Later that day, Tyler showed up at my door. He didn't call first. I was baking muffins for Ellie, who'd been sick with a cold. The house smelled like cinnamon and vanilla. The kitchen was warm. Peaceful. I opened the door. Tyler looked tired. Unshaven. His eyes darted behind me, as if hoping to see the kids. There were none. Mom, he started, we need to talk. I didn't invite him in. Just stood there. Waiting. I didn't realize how much you were doing for us, he said. Natalie didn't know either. I didn't expect you to realize, I replied. That's the thing about people who receive quietly. They get used to it. He nodded slowly. The school called. The balance is, a lot. I know. He rubbed his neck. And the dentist. And the other stuff. I thought we had support. You did. Why did you stop? Because you told me I wasn't part of the family anymore. His eyes widened. We didn't say that. You didn't have to. You wrote it in a text and posted it on Facebook. He looked down. Guilty. Small. I didn't enjoy that. But I didn't rescue him from it either. He took a breath. I miss you. The kids miss you. The kids were told I was busy. I wasn't. I was excluded. He swallowed hard. I made a mistake. No, I said. You made a choice. That landed. He blinked, stunned. I kept my voice soft. Tyler, I love you. I always will. But love isn't supposed to erase you. And that's what I became, erased. While I still cooked, gave, watched your children, paid your bills. I was quietly removed from your life. He didn't argue. He just nodded. Then came the crack in his voice. Can we fix it? I looked at him, really looked. For the first time in years, I saw not just my son, but a man who had grown into someone I no longer recognized. And still, he was mine. We can talk, I said. But this time, I'm not the only one doing the work. He nodded again, eyes wet now. Okay. I'll call. I hope you do. As he walked back to his car, I didn't feel triumphant. I felt resolved. For the first time in years, I wasn't waiting for his love. I was standing in mine. Natalie always liked things perfect. Birthday parties with color-coded balloon garlands. Pinterest-worthy dinner spreads. Christmas trees coordinated by palette, not memory. She was the kind of woman who never forgot to send a thank you card, but somehow forgot who had watched her children every Saturday for years. But perfection requires support. And I had been her invisible scaffolding for nearly a decade. Until I stepped away. The first crack showed up in the school pickup line. Michelle from my Christmas dinner told me. Apparently, Natalie had to leave work early to pick up the twins because something happened with their after-school care. Something, of course, being me. Then came the library fundraiser. She forgot to RSVP. She forgot to send cupcakes. And worse, she forgot to show up. Tyler emailed the PTA chair an apology. Natalie went silent. The whisper started soon after. Is everything okay with them? I stayed quiet. I didn't need to say a word. Then came the phone call. It was Natalie again. Her voice was sharper this time. Controlled. Like someone used to winning arguments. Karen, I just wanted to say. I understand things are a bit tense lately, but this is affecting the kids. I let her speak. They're asking why Grandma isn't around. They're confused. And honestly, it's not fair to them. We'd like to find a way to repair the relationship. Repair? I said gently. You can't repair what you bulldozed. A pause. I don't appreciate the tone. I didn't appreciate the text that uninvited me from Christmas. We all make choices. You're being vindictive. I laughed, not loudly. Just the kind of laugh that slips out when someone finally reveals who they are. No, Natalie. I'm being honest. For once. I didn't mean for you to feel excluded. But I was. I was trying to make things easier. For who? That shut her up. You've had my help for 10 years, I continued. Help you never had to ask for. Help you never thanked me for. And the moment I pulled away, the cracks showed. That's not my failure. That's yours. There was breathing on the other end. Then, like a cornered animal, she bit back. You know what, Karen? You've always been dramatic. Maybe, I said, still calm. Or maybe I've just finally stopped being useful to you. She hung up. No goodbye. No resolution. And still, I didn't feel shaken. I felt free. Because for years, I bent to her comfort. I softened my voice. I made myself smaller to fit in her perfect little world. Now, I was no longer part of it. And the world didn't end. In fact, it was just beginning. That week, I went to the community center and signed up to volunteer with their hot meal program. They needed help organizing groceries, sorting supplies, prepping vegetables. I was good at those things. I met people who didn't ask me for anything, except maybe, pass the salt or, can I hug you? I said yes to both. Meanwhile, Tyler called less. Natalie didn't call at all. And the kids? I missed them. God, I missed them. But I would not earn my way back with free labor and swallowed hurt. Not this time. As I stood in the kitchen of the community center, stirring soup beside strangers who saw my worth, I realized I hadn't lost a daughter-in-law. I had shed a role that was never truly mine to begin with. They say the biggest lies are the ones we tell ourselves. And for years, Tyler and Natalie told themselves that the house they lived in, the pretty craftsman on Linden Avenue, with the wraparound porch and remodeled kitchen, was theirs. Legally, technically, it wasn't. Not fully. When they bought that house 8 years ago, their credit was shaky. Natalie had student loans. Tyler had just changed jobs. They didn't qualify for the loan on their own. So I co-signed. More than that, I fronted the down payment, $20,000 straight from my retirement savings. It wasn't a gift. It wasn't even a loan. It was an investment. In them. And we signed an agreement. One, Tyler insisted we just keep between us, that I held a 25% ownership stake in the property. For legal purposes. Just in case. I never brought it up again. Until now. It was a Tuesday when the letter arrived. I had met with an attorney the week before. A kind woman with sharp eyes and a soft voice. She reviewed the paperwork and nodded. You're still a part owner, she said. I don't want the house, I told her. I want to step away from it. She leaned back in her chair. You want to force a sale? No, I said. I want to give them the choice, buy me out. Or list it. The letter was written carefully. It wasn't cruel. Just firm. It outlined the original terms, reminded them of the 25% ownership, and presented two options: purchase my share within 90 days, or agree to sell and split the proceeds accordingly. I mailed it certified. No text. No warning. Just the truth, wrapped in an envelope with legal weight. 2 days later, Tyler was at my door again. His tone had changed. He wasn't angry. He was scared. "Mom," he said, holding the letter in a trembling hand. "What is this?" "A reminder," I said, opening the screen door. "Of what's real." He stepped inside this time. Sat down at the table like he used to when he was a kid, waiting for grilled cheese. "This would uproot the kids," he said. She's not handling this well." I almost laughed. She wasn't handling it well? "She handled Christmas just fine," I said. "Without me." "She handled my removal from the family quite smoothly. I assumed she could handle responsibility just as well." His jaw tightened. "That's not fair." "What's not fair," I said, "is being erased from your life while still being expected to fund it." He looked away. I softened my tone, just a little. "You have options, Tyler. But pretending I don't exist is no longer one of them." He nodded slowly. "I didn't think you'd do this. I didn't think you'd forget who I was." The silence between us was heavier than ever. "I'll talk to Natalie," he finally said. "Take your time," I replied. "You have 90 days. He stood, slower this time. The weight was finally landing. I watched him go. Not with triumph. But with peace. Because I hadn't destroyed anything. I had simply removed the glue. And when you remove the glue from something cracked, it doesn't fall apart. It reveals that it already was. As the door shut behind Tyler, I folded the receipt of that down payment and slipped it into my drawer. For the first time, it didn't feel like proof of sacrifice. It felt like a boundary finally honored. It was a rainy Thursday when Tyler returned. No text. No warning. Just the knock, soft, hesitant, on my front door. I opened it and found him standing there, drenched. No coat. No umbrella. Just a brown paper bag in one hand and a look on his face that said he hadn't slept in days. "Can I come in?" he asked. I stepped aside. He walked in like someone stepping into an old church, quiet, careful, reverent. He sat at the kitchen table, the same seat he used to sit in while doing homework, while telling me about soccer practice, while blowing out birthday candles. He slid the brown bag across the table. "I brought the lemon muffins," he said. "From Keller's. Your favorite." I opened the bag. They were still warm. "Thanks," I said. He took a breath. "I don't know where to begin." "Begin anywhere," I said, sitting across from him. "I didn't see it happening," he started. "I thought we were just setting boundaries. Trying to protect our space. But looking back, I see now, we weren't setting boundaries. We were building walls. Around you." I nodded. Let him speak. "Natalie thought I was too attached to you. That you had too much influence. That we needed to be more independent. She told me once," I said gently, "that you were still a mama's boy." His face flushed. "She said it in front of your son," I added. "He was 5. He looked down. "I'm so sorry, Mom." I let the words hang there. I needed to hear them. But I needed him to feel them more than say them. He leaned forward. "I didn't realize how much you were doing. How much you were holding. I just assumed it would always be there. Like gravity. Like air." "That's what we all do," I replied. "We assume mothers are infinite." He nodded. "You gave us everything. And we gave you crumbs." "No," I said. "You didn't give me anything. You took." Silence. He didn't argue. He couldn't. I miss the kids, I said softly. They miss you too. Do they know what happened? He shook his head. Not the full truth. But they're not dumb. They feel it. Good. He looked up, confused. Because I want them to learn that love has shape. That it takes care of itself. That it doesn't just pour and pour and pour into people who don't return it. He nodded. I get that now. And? He swallowed. I don't want it to be too late. I stared at him. This boy I raised. This man who forgot me. This son who had come back, not because he needed money, or help, or babysitting, but because he remembered. Can I fix it? He asked. I shook my head. No. His face dropped. But, I continued, you can start again. From scratch. No old terms. No silent expectations. Just honesty. Just showing up. I will, he said. I will. We sat there for a long time. Just breathing. He didn't ask to be forgiven. He didn't ask me to babysit Saturday. He didn't ask for anything. And that was how I knew he had changed. Because for the first time in years, he came with nothing but himself. As he left, I didn't promise him anything. But I unwrapped a lemon muffin, took one warm bite, and whispered to the empty room, maybe this year, something sweet can grow again. The calendar turned to December again. And I'll admit, a small part of me braced for the ache. The memories of last year were still close. They lived in the kitchen drawers, in the attic boxes, in the faint smell of cinnamon I could never quite scrub out. But something had changed. Not just in me. In the world I had chosen to build around me. I didn't get a text this year. I didn't need one. Because by December 3rd, I already had 6 voicemails. From Ellie, asking what kind of candles I was using this year. From Jasmine, offering to bring the same green bean casserole her boys couldn't stop talking about. From Frank, who asked if he could bring his new neighbor, another veteran, recently widowed. And then there was a handwritten card. From Tyler. It didn't say much. Just. If there's still room at your table this year, the kids would love to come. So would I. There was no mention of Natalie. I didn't ask. Because this wasn't about repairing a broken image. This was about rebuilding trust. Slow. Patient. Real. I didn't write back. Instead, I told Jasmine to add 2 extra chairs. And on Christmas Eve, just before sunset, they arrived. Tyler, holding a pie. The twins, dressed in matching sweaters. No Natalie. I opened the door and smiled. Not too wide. Not with desperation. Just peace. Come in, I said. They stepped inside. The twins ran to the tree, laughing, shouting about the smell of cookies. Tyler stood in the doorway a moment longer, holding the pie like a peace offering. It's your pecan recipe, he said quietly. I tried. I smiled. Let's find out if it's edible. Dinner that night was warm. Not just the food. The air. The people. The energy. Ellie told a ridiculous story about the year her husband lit the Christmas ham on fire. Jasmine's boys played a duet on the old upright piano. Frank cried during Grace. And Tyler? He sat beside me. He passed the potatoes. He poured cider. He leaned over and asked if I still had the old photo albums. We didn't talk about the past. Not directly. But every little action said, I remember. I regret. I want to do better. After dessert, he pulled out a small box. Not wrapped. Not fancy. Just simple brown paper with a string. I found this in the garage, he said. Thought you should have it. Inside was a crumpled drawing. Stick figures. A crooked heart. In a child's handwriting. I love you, Mommy. I will never forget you. I hadn't seen it in 20 years. I almost didn't recognize my own handwriting on the back, labeling the date. December 25, 2002. It was Tyler's. I kept it all this time, he said. But I think maybe I forgot it anyway. I'm sorry for that. I didn't speak. I just reached over and squeezed his hand. Tight. Letting him feel what words couldn't carry. Later that night, when the guests had gone and the dishwasher hummed softly in the background, I sat at the table. The same table that, a year ago, had been set for strangers. Now, it was home. Not because of blood. But because of love. Because of choice. Because this time, every soul at that table knew what it meant to be seen. As I folded the old drawing and tucked it into my apron pocket, I whispered to myself, this time, I didn't lose Christmas. I created it. The snow had melted by January, but something in me remained rooted, solid, unwavering. Peace. Not the kind that arrives with trumpets and parades. The quiet kind. The kind that slips in one evening while you're folding laundry, or pouring a second cup of tea, and you realize. I'm not waiting anymore. Not for an apology. Not for an invitation. Not for someone else to call me family. I had stopped chasing the role they kept rewriting without me. I had written my own. Over the months, things shifted. Tyler called more. Not daily. But real calls, voice, not text. Sometimes just to tell me about work. Sometimes just to say the kids had asked about the muffins again. He never brought up the house. But one day, a check arrived in the mail. It wasn't the full amount. But it was enough to show effort. Attached was a note. This is the first piece of making it right. I'll send more when I can. Love, Tyler. No signature from Natalie. I didn't expect one. And I didn't need it. Because I had stopped measuring worth by what people said. I started measuring by how I felt in their presence. And truthfully, I felt lighter without her. Some days, the ache still visits. Like when I hear a child call for Grandma in a grocery store. Or when I pass the boutique where I once picked out a scarf for Natalie's birthday, only to find it unopened in the guest room months later. But the ache no longer owns me. I've filled the cracks. With Ellie's stories. With Jasmine's warm texts. With Frank's garden tomatoes and handwritten jokes. With laughter around a mismatched table. With the smell of fresh rosemary folded into cloth napkins. With a new sense of self-worth that doesn't beg for a seat at any table, it builds one. I still keep that photo box in my drawer. Not out of bitterness. But as a witness. A reminder of everything I gave, not to shame, but to honor. Because I was never just Tyler's mom, or the babysitter, or the lady who makes the cookies. I was, and am, a woman who gave love, even when it cost me. And now? I give it where it's honored. Respected. Reciprocated. Not perfectly. But sincerely. If you're reading this, or listening, or feeling something stir inside you, I want you to know. You are not invisible. You are not too much. You are not too late. Sometimes, the family we build is more sacred than the one we're born into. And sometimes, the greatest revenge is not revenge at all. It's healing. It's joy. It's walking into your own kitchen, smelling something good in the oven, and knowing. You chose this peace. You created this warmth. And no one can uninvite you from your own life. I turned off the lights, one by one, and stood for a moment in the quiet. Not lonely. Just still. I had been forgotten once. But now, I was remembered, by myself.